Hey everybody, so welcome back to the garden. Today I'm going to walk around and just kind of show you what's going on in the garden. It is early fall. Today is the 24th, so it's actually 3 days into fall. And I gotta say, it feels a lot like fall today. I mean, there's a nice breeze, it's much cooler. I think the temperature was in the upper 50s or lower 60s last night, so it's actually cooling off quite a bit. And I just want to give you kind of an update on what survived the summer and what we got planned for the fall coming up and how things are looking. Alright, so I apologize that I haven't gotten a video out in a little while. And you know, I should have done this a couple days back, but you know, there was some rain and then we had to mow and excuse reason and so on and so forth. But at any rate, so now I'm going to get around, I'm going to show you what we got going on and what's happening here in our Northeast Florida food forest and garden. And if you guys don't mind, if you can share some of these videos with other people, I think that would be a really fantastic thing. I would like to get some more people involved. I got some things coming up that I would like to get disseminated out to a wider audience. But at any rate, let me show you what I have, what's like I said, what survived and what I got coming up, and maybe this will give you some inspiration and some ideas on what you can do for your fall garden. Alright, so let's start with a nice panoramic view of how things look. In all, it's looking pretty decent. Got a lot of things growing, a lot of greenness, a lot of trees that are getting bigger. I mean, some of it's slow. Uh-oh, time to take a break. Here comes Murphy. You gotta come say hi. And there he goes, back home. Alright, anyway. So, like I said, things are looking pretty good. Everything's looking nice. Trees are growing. My trellis is broken, so I gotta get that fixed here shortly. But other than that, things are overall looking pretty good. Alright, so we're gonna skip the herb garden today because it's just full of weeds and not a whole lot coming back at the moment. The temperature's too hot for the mint and so on. But, you know, we do have some stuff growing. I will tell you, this Katuk tree, let me show you this, which is a perfectly edible tree. The leaves has actually come back from a root. I thought it was dead because of the hard freezes we got, but so far it seems to be doing all right. So I'm actually impressed with that. Did not get any, well, very little, I should say. We got very little raspberries from our raspberry bushes this year. A little disappointed with that, but that's all right. Hopefully next year it'll come in and start really producing. All right, over here got a couple of things happening. My blackberries down there, they're looking okay. I transplanted them, but this dirt just isn't the greatest. Slowly adding more and more compost as we go along, and we'll see. The tomatoes died out in Mama's tote, but we still have a pepper plant growing and then some chives down inside there, and that's pretty much what's left there. Somebody was talking about lemon trees, and that lemon tree there and the other one I'll show you here in a little bit over there, they are from cuttings. You know, a lot of people say you can't do that, but it seems to be working fine. Alright, so this is a Jamaican sorrel red zinger hibiscus. Alright, and a lot of people like the little roselles there, these little bad boys there, I believe, and eat those. We haven't tried them yet, but we're going to check them out here pretty soon. And then if you look here, all of my pigeon pea trees are really putting out a lot of flowers and a lot of peas, so we'll be harvesting them pretty soon. But you know, I've got them all over because down in the dirt, that's providing nitrogen to my soil and hopefully enriching the soil. Then we have a couple other things that I planted around and about. That's my little baby avocado right there. Alright, so I took a bunch of cuttings from my goji berry, and I've got one here, and it's a bush plant from everything I've understood. And I got one there, and I got another one back there. I'm hoping to get those growing. I'll show you my main plant. It's actually got some flowers on it, so it's looking pretty good. Apple tree starting to lose some leaves. It's okay. Gotten a lot of rain, so I don't think it's that. Might be some fertility issues. And then you can see on my blueberry plants, leaves are starting to turn. It won't be long and they'll be back to sticks again. But they're actually looking better this year. They just haven't got a lot of production off of these back here, and they haven't grown real great. But we're working on it. We'll get there. This is my one really wild area that I've really just kind of let go. You can see the pigeon peas right here in the front, and then back in the back you'll see, well, let me show you. Got my olive tree here, and then some zinnias, and then this is all strawberry, which is looking a little rough because of the heat, and then some flowers right there. A little bit of kale. That's a red Russian kale that's managed to survive. And then there's a baby papaya tree. And then my best apple tree here, which is doing, fairly well. Still growing, still producing. Well, not producing, but it did produce this year. So this right here is my comfrey plant. Now comfrey really doesn't care for the heat, but I kind of nestled it in here. I've got the pigeon pea next to it. But it's doing a lot better this year. I had it in another spot, and then I took a cutting from it and grew another plant. The original spot died, but now the comfrey's coming back. I'd really think that if you're going to grow comfrey, at least for me in this heat down here, it needs to be someplace where there's not a lot of sun. At least not more than half a day. That's just my opinion. Alright, and then over here, this is the African mint potato. Now we did play with it a little bit and pulled up a few of the little potatoes. I have not eaten them yet. I plan to this winter once all the foliage dies back, and I want to see how they taste, whether or not they're really good. But it's more of a ground cover, just to kind of keep things covered, which is doing a pretty good job here. I have gone through and weeded this out here recently, and this is our big summer success story. Alright, right here, this is what they call longevity spinach. This is down in this whole area here. And it produces a lot in the heat. Now, it will die back in the cold, but man, I'm going to tell you what, that is a solid maker. It's got a little bit of a different taste, but if you get used to it, it's really not bad at all. We like it, and it's been, a mainstay of our salads for most of this summer. Alright, and over here is what they call the blanket flower, I think. This is part of that mix I had, and you can see it's dying off. But we do have some new life coming back up from underneath. So I'll probably get back in here and cut some of that down, and then I'll leave the seed heads in the garden so that hopefully they'll grow up again next year. But even now, you can see, let me see if I can focus in on one here. Even now you can see the bees are all over this stuff. They love it. Alright. I mean, they're just crazy for this blanket flower. Alright. So it's a fantastic draw for the bees. I mean, I couldn't have done any better to try and get pollinators in the garden. Now over here we have our peach tree. Now this peach tree was looking a little rough, but with a little extra care it has done very well this summer. Didn't produce any peaches. We did cut it back pretty severely, so I'm hoping next year it will. But the foliage came back. It's really started to come back and come back to life. So much better now. I'm really happy with it. But you can see that a lot of the leaves are starting to brown out. It's going to be that time of year where it's going to lose its leaves. And I might do some cutting again. I think I'd probably leave that one alone. I kind of like the way it's shaping out. So we'll just have to see what happens there. This is my Nectarine. And it's interesting because everything fell off. It just died back severely. Not really sure why. We were getting a lot of rain. But if you look, you can see I've got new growth coming in various different spots. So it's still alive. Just not sure exactly what's going on with it. This is also the same bed that has this apple tree that has died again. Now that's the second apple tree I've had here, and it never came back from the winter. I let it grow, or let it go, to see whether or not it would actually come back to life, and it has not. Not really sure what's up. And I killed another apple tree in the same location. So I'm gonna have to look at doing something a little different here to try and be able to get apples to grow in this area, or at least in another tree of some sort. Now the lemon tree, on the other hand, this has just gone crazy. It is just loving it here. I've got lemons all over the place. You can see I've got them up there. Let's see if I can get that in. There's lemons right there, and then there's some more down over here. Not a huge crop, but we've got way more than we normally do. I mean, I think I counted like a dozen or better lemons. So I'm very pleased with the way the lemon tree has grown this year. I was a little concerned because a lot of people tell you that the tall branches like that, they're the sucker branches and shouldn't produce, but yet here we are, we got lemons up there. So I'm just going to kind of let it grow wild. I will probably cut back some of the lower foliage once the lemons ripen. And keep in mind, down here the lemons do not lose their leaves. I mean, they'll lose some leaves, but they'll put on new leaves, and it's pretty much an evergreen tree. All right. In fact, you know, it seems to me if you can get it to grow like a bush like this, if you wanted a decent hedge product, you know, with it being not as formable, I mean, you can't really form it into a square hedge, but if you wanted something to keep people out, this lemon tree with all its thorns, I mean, because it's got some pretty serious thorns to it, might be a really good option. Now over here, my bananas. So the one in the middle, let's see if I can get in on that. So the banana tree in the middle and in the back is the original, and then the other two are suckers on the side. And you can see I've been chopping down a lot of stuff and just laying it down around it and letting that rot down. And it seems to have done a pretty good job of making it grow, but no bananas. I'm not really sure why I haven't got any bananas yet. But I do know that the one at each of Yard Jack's where he gets a regular crop is much taller than this. I think his are like 20 foot tall, where mine are probably around 10 to 12. So we'll see what happens. I think it might be a little late, and hopefully next year we'll get some bananas. Yet to manage to get any bananas on my property. Alright, the Ashia fig is doing quite well. As you can see, I have a lot of little figs up in here. There's more right back in there. It's coming in with a lot of figs. There's more up there. But last year, the figs didn't ripen before the freeze. And so that was kind of an issue. Hopefully this year we'll get a little bit later of a freeze, but we'll see. There's some more of that longevity spinach. And like I said, that stuff just goes nuts. And you can easily cut and root that to, I mean, that's how we've gotten so many different patches of it. Some more weeds. I gotta weed this garden. It's one of the few I haven't done yet. Another papaya tree. And this is a honey fig, Italian honey fig. So it hasn't really grown a lot this year, but as I remember, first year on my other fig trees, they didn't grow much either. So I'm hoping that it'll get a little bigger next year and hopefully produce some figs. I'm interested to taste them. But that's our other fig tree, and you can see the leaves are starting to brown out on this one and starting to die a little bit. Had a lot of rain, so we got a little bit of mildew, but that's just, you know, par for the course. It's the natural progression of things. As the winter or the fall slowly takes over, it's going to die back. I do still have a few of the figs on there, but that's just part of nature, man. You know, winter comes and things die. This is somewhat of a blank slate. I do have something interesting here. I had planted some garlic here in this plot, mostly as a deterrent for pests. And actually, I pulled some out, but apparently these I didn't see. So I've got one there, I've got a second one there, and I got number 3 and 4 down there. But the interesting one is this one. And what I like about it, you can see there's multiple sprouts in there. So I had heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, and that's why I'm leaving them there to find out, that if you leave garlic in the ground as a clove, then what will happen is it will actually push away from the other cloves as the bulbs form. So we're going to let that grow as is and just kind of see what happens if we just let it go wild and keep on producing. Might be an interesting way of growing garlic in the future. This is a little bit of basil. The basil did survive. We cut it back pretty severely, and we saved a lot of it for the for pesto. And it's come back, though not as well as I would have hoped. It's putting out a lot of seeds, so I'll save some of that seed, and we'll have some for next year, even if all this dies. Now over here, now I got to say this about the basil though. So in my garden, I have holy basil, I have a purple basil, I have sweet basil, and I have lemon basil. So with these things being cross-pollinated, I'm not really sure what I'm going to get when I plant the seeds. All right, so it might be very interesting, or it might just be nasty. We'll have to see as time goes on. My collards, this is 2 collard plants. They grew huge, and I got a bunch of seeds from. And we still are getting collard leaves that we put in the salad. I don't really care for them cooked. That's just my personal opinion. I know I'm not very southern, but I'm from Kansas, so all you southerners can bite me. But they are good in salad if you don't overwhelm the salad with them. All right, but it adds bulk and adds some green material. It's really good for you. My grapes went crazy again, but we got a lot of grape harvest out of here, so it actually worked out well. Then over here I planted squash, some acorn squash that I got as part of my 3 Sisters package that my daughter gave me. The squash, all of it except for one plant, this one big one back here, got ate down to the nubs like this. I mean, the bugs just tore it up. But now this one plant seems to be doing much better, and so far I've actually I actually have a few small squash growing, so we'll see if it continues. But most of what's actually showing up in here is this one plant. Now these others are starting to come back a little bit, like that one there. This one is trying to put out a flower, and then that one there came back. But there's another one that was over there that died in that blank spot. So, you know, we've had a ton of rain, so I don't think it's a water thing. I'm not really sure what's going on. On this side of the lemon tree, I have my pomegranates. Now I have multiple pomegranate trees, but these are the ones that I put in the ground, and they're kind of shaded by that lemon tree, so they seem to have grown a lot better. I did not get any blooms on them this year, but they have grown substantially. Like this one in the back in particular, it has gotten up to probably 15 foot tall or so. So I may cut that back a little bit at the top this year to kind of get it to bush out. I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna do some reworking in this bed in particular, just because just not a lot of stuff that I want to grow, other than the pigeon peas and the lemons, and of course the bananas. So we're going to keep working. We'll add some more stuff, and as time goes on, it'll get better and better. And over here in my little back garden, this used to be a potato patch, but potatoes just never did very well. So over here, you see that dead tree in the back. That is my guava, my pink guava, and it died. Again, it got way too cold. We got temperatures in the mid-20s last year. So I'm hoping that's just a one-off and it won't happen again. But with that in mind, I did a couple of things. One, I put one in the ground. Let me get out of the shade. Right there next to that pot. I'm in the process of weeding the rest of this out. But so I got one in the ground and I got one in the pot. And then what I'll do is this one in the pot will go in to my screen patio in a shelter spot, so it'll stay warm through the winter. So even if I lose that little one due to freezes, it will continue on, and I'll have guavas hopefully within a year or two. And behind that are my biggest papaya trees. Those 3 papaya trees have gone insane. Well, not insane, but you know, they're probably 5 foot tall or so, whereas the other ones are, you know, more this size, where they're actually, you know, like, I don't know, 2 foot tall, not quite 3, 2.5. And then this is something I did yesterday. This is actually a new compost bin. Now you can see back in the back my regular compost bin, but I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One, I had the extra wire as I was taking down my little fence. 2, as you can see, my compost bins are somewhat full. If you look, this is the fresh compost over here, and then the medium compost, and then over there is the pretty well finished compost. But I want a good stash of compost for the spring. So I'm going to let a lot of this compost through the winter, and hopefully I'll have those 3 bins completely full and this one here. The other thing about this compost bin is as it composts down, it should warm up, and as it warms up, hopefully it'll be a small heat source for this area back in here. I'm trying to come up with a good solid plan, but I think I'm going to make this into another food forest area here. I have the mulberries, which are growing over here, and I'll be doing a video on this, but they're pretty much going to be a hedge to screen me so I can pee in my compost. I know, you're like, what? Yeah, urine is a fantastic thing for compost, but we'll get back to that. Here's my plum tree. They seem to be doing fine. They really liked all the rain, and of course all my lemongrass back behind that. My Mexican sunflower, which I probably should have cut back and used as a chop and drop. As you can see, it's tall, but the wife likes to see the flowers on it, and the butterflies like it, so we're going to let it grow. It provides some shade for the butterfly garden, so it works out. Now let's talk about the garden proper. So we got my actual vegetable garden here, and we'll start over on this side. All right, right there, this is all of my eggplant. Sorry, this is all of my eggplant. It seems to be doing quite well. You can see the marigolds have all gone crazy. The marigolds actually all start down along in there, but they've spread all up and around and gone all crazy on me. But now I want to show you that if you look at the leaves, there's a few bite holes, but most of these leaves are perfectly fine. So that is one plant that does not seem to be affected by a lot of the pests that we have down here. That and amaranth. This is a type of amaranth that we like to put in our salad. This is another one, the Love Lies Bleeding amaranth. So doesn't get eaten up too bad. Sorry, it doesn't seem to get eaten up too bad. But it's also another addition that we have for our salads here. And I'll show you another one that's flowering out over here in a little bit. But it drops the seeds everywhere. and then they just volunteer, so I get them popping up everywhere. Over here, some different peppers. I cannot remember the type of pepper this is because I'm getting flowers, but I haven't really got a lot of peppers off it yet. They're starting to form. And then over here, this is a poblano pepper, and this one back here is a small cherry type pepper, which there's one that's been eaten up. They're really spicy, really good. But if you look back here, you see that tomato plant inside the cage? That's a volunteer. I have no idea how tomato seeds got there and there and there. But they're growing up. They're obviously tomatoes, so I'm gonna let them grow, see what happens. All right, here's some of the sweet basil. When we cut it back, I think we cut it back too severely. It's trying to grow back, but I'm hoping I'll get some seed off of that. There was originally 4 plants, 1 died, 3 have survived somewhat. I think as it cools down, we should start getting more off of that. And this is my banana peppers. Those have gone absolutely insane. I've gotten a ton of banana peppers. No spice to them, but very tasty. So we really like them. And this is one of my cucumber plants. I'm going to show you some more. You can see these have gotten eaten up quite a bit. I mean, got a lot of flowers. I got a couple of small cucumbers trying to start. We'll see if they survive. But the pest pressure this time of year is just intense. And I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Now my bell peppers, on the other hand, have done very well. You can see I've got some that need to be harvested. They are a yellow pepper, so I might let them get a little more yellow. We'll see as time goes on. But we've been eating a lot of peppers off of these. Now these were actually starts that my daughter bought me. And they were a, what's the variety on that? Yeah, I can't see it. I know they were a yellow pepper, and they've done very well. We've got a lot of peppers off of them, and continue to do so. Now, I will tell you from experience that oftentimes you can keep your peppers and overwinter them, and if they don't freeze, they'll continue to produce. But I've had it happen where I just cut them back, and the next year I got new growth off of the last year's peppers. We'll see how that works. I am going to save some seeds, but so far it seems to be doing okay. Alright, this is my square foot garden. Got a lot of different things happening in here. I've got a mustard plant here, and then a bean next to the mustard plant. The bean is there basically to try and put some fertility in the soil so that I can plant tomatoes again next year. That is a Nigerian black tomato, and my neighbor had a big plant that was growing very large, and so he gave me a cutting I stuck in the ground. It was looking pretty rough there for a while, but now it's starting to come back, so I think we're going to be okay with that one. And then that is some Egyptian spinach, another salad addition. This one here is bok choy. That one's looking a little bit rough, but they're actually growing. They seem to be doing okay so far. It is a little warm for them yet, but you know, temperatures are cooling down, and it should be okay as we go forward. Then down here I got some broccoli, a couple of marigolds, and then some more of the garlic that I found. I actually had one clove that I forgot to harvest, and so I managed to pull several plants off of that. I've got them planted here in another spot I'll show you in a little bit. Now that's a mustard, that's a mustard, and then behind that, these seem to really be doing well, is the tatsoi. Now the tatsoi is a very tasty green, and once again that's another nice addition to our salads. You can see we've harvested some of it. And then along with that, we have our kale. Now this was the dazzling blue kale, and I've got several plants of it. Another Egyptian spinach behind it. More of that amaranth. So between the kale, the amaranth, some of the greens like the tatsoi and the bok choy, mustards, collards, and a lot of the perpetual spinach. No, I'm sorry. longevity spinach, sorry. Perpetual spinach we didn't really care for. But with the longevity spinach, that's a lot of where we get our salad from. That and some peppers, carrots or tomatoes, whatever we have left that are still growing. Like you got some carrots back in there. Then this is another marigold that's gone crazy. That's all one plant. But it's shading out the base of these kale. So I've left it there, let it grow. That's another purple basil there. And then this is a tomato plant. It just did not want to grow. This is a sweetie cherry tomato. And I'm, you know, like all summer long, I planted it like early. Well, actually, it was late to mid spring. And it's just now starting to put some growth on. And we got a few tomatoes up in there. But it seems to be doing okay so far. I've got a couple of tomatoes off it, and I'm hoping for more as we move on. Then there's another cucumber that I put down in here. Once again, a lot of pest pressure. I mean, it's getting eaten up pretty tough. More of the peppers. These are the peppers that I grew from seed. And I know it's easy to assume that these did not grow as well because I had grown them from seed, but I think it's more of an issue with the ability to keep this soil moist. For some reason, this soil just dries out so quick. So we're going to have to see how it all works out. But I'm probably going to have to do some serious intensive rehab to this soil. So if you look over this arch trellis here, which I had to support, I would not do this again this way. I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to do different. But I did have to support it, but it's held up with the supports and has grown a ton of loofah. If you see there, I got loofah there. I mean, it just went crazy. It went all across my strawberry cage, all over into here. And I've got loofah gourds. Let's see, I got some there, I got some there, got them up there, and I got them over there. Let me go through here. I got a bunch more down there. It has produced a ton of loofah. I got some more over here. We harvested the ones over here. We've harvested a bunch of them as well. So the loofah did very well, but it took a while. We had a few early on, but most of them came on here in the last month or so. So my thing for those of you who are trying to grow loofah gourds and are getting frustrated, just be patient. All right, the strawberry patch. So we read up about strawberries, and apparently the strawberries that I have are a bit too congested. So I've let a few of them kind of die back, and I'm either going to replant with new ones. Of course, I got some weeds in there yet. I'm either going to replant with new ones, or I'm going to take these out of the ground, separate the crowns, and replant those, which is probably what I want to do, because I don't like spending money if I don't have to. All right, that's that half of the garden, which is growing well. And then over here, this is my sweet potatoes. Now, in my sweet potatoes, I got a couple other things. Like you can see, that's an eggplant that I put in there. And it's popping up, getting ahead. But the sweet potatoes are trying to grow up, and I don't know what's going to end up happening. But it's a pretty interesting experiment. And then over here is mustard green. And that mustard green is actually putting up a stalk to try and get above the sweet potatoes. So I think that's kind of interesting. I did go through and pull some weeds in here. Let me go around on this side. And I'll kind of show you. So we get something called Spanish needle or Biden's album. Let me show you a picture real quick. All right, so right here next to my elderberry bushes, you can see the Spanish needle or the Biden's alba. And this stuff is great. As you can see, I mean, I've got pollinators all over it, bees, moths, the butterflies love it. I mean, it's a very good fall pollinator attraction. The only problem is, let me see if I can find some needles. Yeah, here we go. Is these needles right here. So if you look at the needles, that's what gets stuck on your clothes. Well, of course it won't focus now. But these needles stick to you and they fly in the wind. And each of those is a seed, and that will fly over here and get everywhere. So they will particularly drop if you don't pull them out before they end up putting out seed. So you can leave the flowers on a while, but as soon as you see the flowers start to form into seed, if you don't want them to grow back in your garden, you need to pull them out. So I did that up in here. There was a really big one right in the middle. If you look down here, you can see it exposed some of my sweet potatoes. Alright. So where I pulled out the plant, I uncovered a few sweet potatoes. So the sweet potatoes are growing. So by Thanksgiving time, we should have a bunch of sweet potatoes up in here. Alright, and that is not where I planted the original plants, I don't believe. But either way, they're growing everywhere. And if you look, like I've chopped this one back to get this fence out of here so I could use it for compost. But if you look, let's see if I can find one. In a lot of places, it's rooted in. Alright, and so that will grow despite the fact that I've cut it back. Alright, and it should put out sweet potatoes wherever the roots go down. So I'm letting the sweet potatoes pretty much just take over this whole bed, hopefully, with the exception of a few other things I got in here. Like this is another tomato plant, this is another sweetie tomato plant that I planted. And you can see I've got a couple of small tomatoes in there. Should be able to see that. And I got some more coming. Alright, so we're actually producing tomatoes. And then I did plant yard long beans in here over both of these trellises, and they, you know, pretty much died back, and I've taken them for dried beans for the moment. I had some over here, actually I got one there after I missed. But it's mostly for nitrogen production. Though the beans are okay, not fantastic. There's another zinnia, another thing that just kind of pops up every which way. We get them all over the place. And then this is my broccoli patch. As things get a little bigger, I will cut them back, eat the leaves, and kind of separate them out so that they're not as close together. Probably here pretty soon. They're getting eaten a little bit, but not too terrible bad. And then back behind that, I have some chives. And the neat thing about chives, I planted an individual chive in each of these spots. So if you look right there, you can see that's an individual chive. And that's what I did here, and there, and over here. And they have separated out and produced more chives. So that's how you get your chives to expand, is you let them basically grow up, separate out, and then you got more chives to plant, and then those will grow up, separate, and make more plants, which is kind of neat. That's how you get more chives to grow. Then back behind here for the shade, I planted some more bok choy because I'm collecting my own seeds, so I can put that pretty much wherever without any expense. Some of it is getting eaten, like down at this end. But it's interesting that not over there. Alright, and let me go around here. I'll show you the front side of this. Now over here, this is my cucumbers. That is my old box springs that I turned into a trellis, just taking the cloth off of it. And you can see that these cucumbers grew up tall. They were growing fantastic, nice huge leaves, but man, they have been chewed to nothing, just eaten up. Got some beans that I planted inside of the box springs at the base, and they're doing okay. I just recently planted those, so hopefully they'll continue on, but I'm pretty sure that all of this cucumber is a loss. Now, it didn't cost me anything but seed. But this is why I don't typically try and grow cucumbers late in the season, even though I know you can in some other places. But the bug pressure is just too tough around here. All right, those are some green beans I planted. I actually planted a whole row, but only the 3 of them came up. So might have been too hot or what have you. Another leftover garlic right there. That's what I got going right now. I'm trying to think of a good trellis plant to put here and there, because I had a bunch of beans grow there, and then peas before that, so it should be very well nitrogenated. It's got a lot of nitrogen in it. Soil. All right, so we're gonna see. I did plant some borage plants in here. As you can see, the babies are just now starting. All right. So got a few of them. A couple of them didn't germinate. That's all right. They're coming. Borage is pretty interesting. It's got very fuzzy leaves, but it tastes like cucumber. All right, now let's look at my new garden. All right, take you down here to the end, because if you look at the end, you can kind of see the rows. All right, so you can see I've got some things growing, other things not so much yet, but we're progressing. Still, it's been 9 days since I planted this. All right, so over on this side, along this first edge, the first row there, that is radish, and then next to that, the smaller plants there, that's actually Simpson lettuce, black-seeded Simpson, which I really like. And then back over here, this row, which doesn't really show a lot of growth yet, there's a few plants in there, I think, and that's cabbage. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but even though I've been keeping it wet, it's been raining, and I've been watering, the cabbage really hadn't done great. Carrots. Let's talk carrots. So I know a lot of people have issues growing carrots. Now, one of the things about carrots, let's see if I can focus in on this. So one of the issues about carrots is what is carrot and what is actually grass. All right, because this is formerly a grass, a lawn. So you got some very small plants in there, and it's really difficult to say. Like, I believe these are carrots, and I know that's grass, but I think I've got good carrot growth, but we'll see. The key to it, in my opinion, is keep it moist. All right, like if you dig down here, the moisture is just below the soil level. I mean, it's just the drying out that's happened over the last couple of hours. And I'll water it again tonight, since we're not looking at rain anytime in the near future. All right, so then on this side I got beets, which there's a few of them coming. They're still very, very small, but they are coming in. And then more carrots down at this end. And then over here, I got more beets, and they're slowly coming up. You can see that's a beet plant there. And then next to that is the kohlrabi, which is the smaller plants there. You can see those. And then behind that is the daikon radish. Now, the interesting thing about daikon radishes is they're a digging plant. They go deep. All right, so I want to keep planting those here because this soil, it's been tilled down to about 6 to 8 inches, but these will help break up that harder packed soil that's a little bit deeper down. Now on the other side of that, let me go on this side. I got my Butter King lettuce, heading lettuce. All right, so it's coming up along the row there. You can kind of see that there. And then next to that is more of the tatsoi, because I really like that tatsoi. It actually tastes very good. Then over here, you can see a couple of itty bitty potato plants. Got this one right here. There's another one right there, and a little bit bigger one down there. All right, we had some sprouting in the kitchen. I'm sorry, in the pantry. So I went ahead and planted them up in hopes of getting some fall potatoes. and we'll see kind of how that goes. As far as fruit trees, not a lot's producing. Everything's growing nice. I actually trimmed back this loquat. I trimmed back this loquat tree pretty severely, but you can see the areas where I trimmed it back, like right there. You can see I got growth all around it, so it didn't do it any harm. Seems to be growing back very nicely from where I trimmed, and we're starting to get heads and flower heads that will eventually lead to some fruit, which we're really excited for. Loquats are so good, man. I don't know. If you've never had them, give them a shot. This is my shade garden, which is pretty much petered out. I'm probably going to go ahead and cut everything out of here sometime in the near future. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just mulch it over and let it sit for the winter. Mulch it very heavily and let it sit for the winter, and then we'll hopefully have a little better soil come springtime. Now, some of the other trees, I got my kumquats coming in, and this kumquat tree has produced so many kumquats every year. Now, kumquats are kind of an acquired taste. They're good. My wife really likes them in tea. She's been making kumquat tea out of it. There's just not a lot of meat to them. But man, if you're really needing some citrus, this is a fantastic plant to have in your yard here in Northeast Florida. One of the cool things about it, you know, it's the beginning of fall, and in the dead of the winter is when these will actually start to produce. I mean, really start to ripen up to where you can start eating them. So if you're looking for a wintertime citrus, for me, this kumquat has been the thing. I've got another one growing in my my little tree farm. My olive tree, mother olive tree, we have 2 of them. Never has produced olives. I hear it can take as much as 7 to 10 years. So olives are somewhat of a pain to process as well. Apparently you got to soak them in brine for weeks and weeks and weeks. So not really sure how that's all going to go. This is another one of my peach trees that was looking very rough, but has put a lot of new growth on and seems to be doing a lot better this year. Not really sure why. I don't fertilize. I do put down compost and I do put down wood chips. Now this one got a fresh batch of wood chips this year, so maybe that's what helped out. I'm not really sure. So you see around this peach tree, I do have a lot of flowers. I've got some marigolds, and I got some mums that are just now starting to bloom, some zinnias, and I mean, theoretically it's there to provide pollinators something to attract them, but this hasn't really flowered out. So right now it's just mostly to keep life in the soil, keep it somewhat shaded, and it seems to have done well. I mean, the plants are doing all right. I mean, the tree is. Over here is my Fuyu persimmon, and I gotta say, it looks pretty much the same as when I planted it. Now, I'm assuming that a lot of the growth went into roots. I don't know. Apparently this is not a native plant, but persimmons are native here, so they should be doing fine. It has not lost any leaves yet. The leaves are still nice and sturdy, but I just have not seen a lot of growth. So we'll see. Hopefully next year, now that it's gotten more established, we'll get a little more growth on that. And then we'll start planting some other stuff around it, see if that helps. This is supposed to be my black cherry tree, which I don't think it is. But it's kind of interesting. It lost all of its leaves and then sprouted back some new growth. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I thought it was just dying back for the winter, but at any rate, and it's not a lack of water, man. We've had so much rain here. I've had to empty my pool so many times. And then there's some yarrow down there and some daisies. Those daisies are edible. Yarrow is a medicinal plant, and it's supposed to, it gets a nice deep tap root, pulls nutrients up from way down in the soil, so hopefully that will help to keep this tree growing, because I mean, this is like the 4th or 5th year on this tree, and it's, what, maybe 5 foot tall. Hasn't really grown a lot. My bananas over here, my trellis is breaking. I gotta fix that, change it out. I did use untreated lumber because that's all the 2x2s I could get. So I'm going to figure something else out over this winter, and we'll replace all that with something. The grapes over here sucked. I mean, they sucked. That is pretty much all the growth I got. Still a little bit of growth. Just have not done anything. And it's interesting because the bananas behind them have done fine. And maybe that's why. Maybe the bananas are sucking up all the nutrients. But even this passion fruit vine, which I grew from a passion fruit seed, really hasn't done much. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on. I've put multiple layers of compost in. I think I'm going to lay out some more. Just not getting it. Just not getting it. I'm not sure. My other grape over there has done great. It's grown leaps and bounds. This one, not so much. Come back behind me. This is our orange tree, a mandarin orange. And then that's another peach tree right there. And then next to that is my mulberry hedge. I will say, cutting the mulberries back like that, which I need to do again, really made them produce a lot more mulberries, which the birds have pretty much all gotten. And here's another peach tree we have. That one's done fine. It produced a lot of peaches, and it's put out a lot of growth. It really seems to like it here. Maybe it's because it's on the border of my neighbor's property. Maybe he's cheating. You think? Nah, I'm just kidding. So that's what we got over here. Then let me show you my other orange tree. Now that orange tree has done really good. I mean, it's grown a lot of growth. We had 2 blooms and both of them fell off. Had a baby orange, but it didn't make it. And that's pretty much all the food production out here. I'm going to have to do a little bit of trimming at some point in the near future. I'm not sure when the best time is for that. But it's doing well. The trunk is thickening up. We have a lot of nice growth on it, so I've been very pleased. And then back over here, we have our pineapples. Now I'm pretty sure that pineapple right there is ready to harvest. When it turns all yellow like that, it should be good to go, so we're probably going to pop that off. Then we'll take the top and replant it. A lot of people are asking questions about pineapples. Like I got a question on Facebook, and they're asking, so I cut the top off, but I don't see any pups. Should I pull the plant out? No, you got to leave the plant alone, and hopefully it'll either put out a new flower, which I have heard of happening, or it'll put out small pups on the sides, just like a cactus, and then you can take those pups and replant those pups. So either way, we've got several more planted. This winter, hopefully, as long as I don't get too busy doing other stuff, some of this hedge is going to come down, so I'll get a little more sun over here on this side. We have them here because the heat off of that wall keeps them alive in the wintertime, and even though we had some really cold temperatures last year, all of these have survived. So for pineapple here, where it gets a freeze, if it gets frozen, it's going to die. That's just the way it works. And then we got some more lemongrass over here, mostly for, mosquito suppression. And then down here, a bunch more of the longevity spinach. I mean, that stuff, in the summertime, it loves it. But you can see I got more of that Biden's Zob over here. That's got to get cut back. And I got a weed in here real bad. But that's pretty much what I got going. Alright everybody, so thanks for sticking around to the end of the video and seeing what I've got growing here in my garden. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw, and hopefully it gives you some inspiration or some ideas on what you could do to grow in your fall garden. Either way, things are going pretty well. I'm pleased, and I think that it should be a very interesting fall coming up. Hopefully we'll have a few more videos out so you can see what's going on and how we're going about doing it. I've got some things about how I'm going to save the world, hopefully, and also some biochar things and so on that I've got planned, and so stick around for that. But either way, do me a favor, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and most importantly, let me know what you think. Give me some comments. Is this format cool for you? Do you like the way things are going? Ideas on maybe what I could do better. or what you think would also grow, or things that, you know, I might enjoy planting in my garden. Anything. I love the interaction. So whatever interaction you got for me, I like it. So either way, y'all take care. Thank you once again, and most importantly, don't forget, grow something.